Gao Fei, who got scared and asked his village master if he heard that because they were coming to kill them. He went on to say that they needed to go back to the village and prepare to escape. Suddenly, Cheng Dale ran towards the rings with his axe and yelled at the bandits of the northern rings. For the great Cheng was there, come fast and die on his axe. This shocked and scared his team while their jaws dropped because of their village master. The ring guards were alerted and questioned who it was and demanded to show himself while Cheng Dale sprinted swiftly and yelled at the scum of the rings to prepare to die. They pointed their spears for the enemy attack. However, the rings guards' heads were chopped off, knocking out their teeth and slashing through their bodies. Tin Man told his team not to stand there and go help their village master. Shortly after that, they sprinted with their weapons in hand, and some yelled to kill them all. The ring guard yelled for enemy attack and ordered a signal to the camp. Suddenly, a firework appeared in the night sky while the ring guards were killed, and a buzzing sound was heard, which scared the toad bandits. The ring tribes quickly swarmed outside their camp and repeatedly yelled for an enemy attack. They rode their horses and carried their weapons. Cheng Dale screamed and told everyone that the wind was tight and tearing, which means that the momentum was not right, and immediately withdrew. The bandits rode their horses away from the ring tribe while Gao Fei, who asked what the hell he was up to. Cheng Dale responded by running for their life. If he was too slow, he would be shot by arrows of the rings. Someone notified Cheng Dale that their horses were too fast and that they almost caught them, which he assured them not to worry, leading them to the main path as he everything prepared on the main path. Cheng Dale smiled as he told them to follow him and avoided the roadblocks. Liao Jia and Liao Yi erected roadblocks, rocks, large logs, and dug deep and shallow river ditches on the official road. The rings were blocked by large logs where they suddenly stopped chasing them. His fellow ring member told Chuo Man that he didn't have a good feeling with so many obstacles in the way, to which Chuo Man replied that they were just a few mountain bandits. Since they killed their brother, they couldn't just let them escape. Gao Fei, who looked back and told his village master that they did not seem to be able to catch up with them. He suggested they escape while they still could and hurried back to the village. However, Cheng Dale fiercely shouted and told the rings that he was the lord of the Fallen Leaf City, the ranger general of the Kin New Mountain Trap Battalion, and the holder of the Lord Seal of Yuju. He also called them dog bandits of the northern rings, coming fast and dying on his axe. This made their jaws drop and shocked toad bandits and questioned what Cheng Dale was doing. Gao Fei, who scolded him that they would have given up chasing them, but he roared back. Cheng Dale laughed while his fellow bandit questioned him if he wanted the whole village to go down with him. They headed back to the village as the rings were coming to attack them. It was still dark, and they arrived at the village and quickly opened the gate repeatedly. The gate opened and they went inside swiftly, while the bandits on the top of the gate wondered what was behind them when the village master was back. They were stunned for a short while and suddenly realized it was the rings. A bandit screamed that the rings were attacking them, while someone shouted that the rings were attacking them. The bandit complained about how they could escape, that they were finished, they felt totally awful, and turned to their village master, who was eager to seek death when they should have run for their lives, while Cheng Dale remained silent. Gao Fei, who confronted Cheng Dale that he wouldn't escape, he wasted time and brought the ring there purposely to drag them to death with him. Su Ying thought of Cheng Dale as she watched and stood on the side. Suddenly, Cheng Dale smiled and laughed loudly. He answered them that they were right, he never wanted to escape. Cheng Dale went on to say that fleeing to where, like a dog turning its back on the enemy, and questioning whether they could really escape. He took his sword and pointed at the rings, and shamed his people for being afraid before they even fought. Now that the rings arrived, this place already become a desperate situation. There was no way back, and he no choice but to lay down their lives and fight. The bandits kept saying that their escape was no longer possible, but depending on it was. Someone questioned that their opponents were the rings, and only 2,000 people of them could fight. They asked if they could defend against them. Cheng Dale confidently replied that there were only a few thousand pursuers, and what was there to be afraid of? Cheng Dale reminded Gao Fei that he didn't say the rings were invincible, and today he would kill them to show him. 1,000 ring members on horseback rode and aimed to attack. Cheng Dale called for Blacksmith Zhu and ordered her heavy crossbowmen to push up the heavy crossbows, to which she agreed immediately. As the rings approached near the Toad village, Cheng Dale commanded teams of 5, all on his signal. He told them not to be nervous and to behave as they would in normal training. The shield bearers went right for cover, adjusted the angle, and let them come closer. The horses moved quickly while Chuo Man alerted his people that they some people up there ready for firing arrows, and that the trap battalion would break down the door with him and kill them all. The ring's men shot their arrows simultaneously, aimed at the top gate while they came near the gate. Cheng Dalei commanded the shield troops to the front. As a result, they were able to block the arrows successfully. He directed them to aim the lights of the fire below and spread the heavy crossbows. Cheng Dalei called for Team 1 to get ready and released. In the darkness, it was completely impossible to see the real shape of the village from a few hundred meters away. When they arrived at the gates, they saw the high wall, which was difficult to overcome. Chuo Man thought in his head it was a trap, and there were still crossbow arrows that cut through the night sky. Chuo Man was hit right into his chest and screamed with fear in his eyes. A lot of the ring members were hit, blood began to splash, and they lost their balance and fell from their horses. Cheng Dalei commanded his team to load the crossbow and called the stone-throwing Team 2 to get ready. Cheng Dalei shouted for release, where several stones, flew at the rings and heavy bang was heard as soon as it reached unto them. Some were able to dodge, however, some didn't. The rings repeatedly yelled to pull back because it was a trap, repeatedly. Another one yelled to hold formation and return to camp for support. The hastily retreating cavalry joined the charging cavalry like a great wave. People rolled back and forth, and there was no telling how many people and horses perished from the trampling in the darkness. The rings repeatedly alerted his fellow troops to retreat. They fell back quickly while heavy and large stones flew and still aimed at them. Gao Fei, who was shocked when he saw the rings were knocked back by this. Cheng Dalei responded where he said every day that the rings were invincible, that they were strong and the courage of 1,000,000 men. Everyone the same opinions, that was why the rings could break Yuzhou in a day, and the Black Rock City in half a day, and berated them. They were bound by fear even before the battle started. Cheng Dalei furiously told them now that he's shown them. The rings were not three-headed, they know 6 arms and were invulnerable to swords and spears. They were not monsters, they were also born from the parents, and raised by mother and father, and they were just as human as them. They screamed when they were in pain, they were afraid to die, and they could be defeated when they were overwhelmed by enemies. And now the heavy crossbow team continued until they were out of range or they ran out of arrows. The bandits' courage and morale were lifted, as they were eager to fight and get in line. While Cheng Dalei gazed at the fleeing men of the ring tribes, his fellow bandits argued about who was shooting arrows. Cheng Dalei stood at the top of their stone walls, ordered his people that they were out of range and did not waste crossbow arrows. He said that there were only remnants of wounded soldiers below, and he called for the good men of Toadstool to get ready with him as they would rush out and kill those animals quickly. Cheng Dalei raised his swords while his people cheered for him. Their gate was opened and they rushed out on their horseback for an attack. 2,000 men from the mountain fortress rushed out to kill the fleeing rings, while the remnants of the rings tribe were only 200 or 300 people, and the men and horses were exhausted. Besides the injuries, they simply could not offer effective resistance. Cheng Dalei was not in a hurry to kill them but only wanted to slowly exhaust the physical strength of the survivors. Eventually, the survivors were driven into a ravine by Cheng Dalei's deliberate pursuit. This was like a bag. The 100 Liu family elites that Lin Shuyu led were the last rope to close this bag, and he alerted his troops that they were coming. Lin Shuyu said that the leopard wolf was in the bag and struck. Overnight, 720 ring members died at the city gates, and the 300 survivors were annihilated at the Qin New Mountain Pass. From the Toad village, several people were killed, dozens were seriously wounded, and more than 100 were lightly wounded. Warning came at the Qin New Mountain. Somewhere at the white tents of the Ring tribe camp, someone thought in his head that there were only a dozen people who should have been killed by now, but kept wondering why there was no news even after sunrise. These people from the kingdom were easy to kill. Could it be that they come across a village in the mountains and started looting again, or did Chuo Man get ambushed and they were dead? It was Kai Mei, and someone on horseback arrived at his tent to report. At sunset, the northern Ring tribe set out from their camp and sent troops to the Qin New Mountain. The battle's aftermath, including a field covered with blood and bodies, was a disaster in front of the Toad village. The Toad bandits pulled the bodies and buried them. As they draped a white cloth over their faces, they placed the dead in a carriage. While Cheng Dalei stood by himself atop their gate, the sun was going to set. He didn't say anything as he stared down at the bloody bodies lying on the ground. After continuing to gaze at the bodies, Cheng Dalei closed his eyes. A voice emerged and told him that he fought a beautiful battle today. Cheng Dalei replied that it was not bad and that today was just the beginning. It was the system and referred to him as a young man, and it was a long time. Cheng Dalei told her that she was not out for so long. If it was not for the raffle machine, he would have thought she disappeared while the system teased him if he missed her. It was a year since Cheng Dalei entered this world, and he always wanted to ask her this question. He told the system, Because of her existence, he couldn't help but think that this world was actually just a game. The information of the people on Kinnu Mountain. He could read it whenever he wanted, just like a game NPC. Their character biographies, skills, and even some personal data could appear, but later he found that there were many people whose data he couldn't check. Like Lai Xingya, the fortune teller old man, even Ho. He could only see that he was a member of the Ring tribe. Cheng Dalei went on to say that the system's ability to view NPCs was not powerful, and some people deliberately disguised themselves because he could not see through them. As he learned more about this world, his image and the system's presence were incompatible with this world. The world is real. The system was more like a fusion of Cheng Dalei's memories, a poor imitation of the system in his mind than the system's stream novel. Although the system very little authority in the world they were in, trembling with fear using cheats and exploiting a bug, the rewards granted would also not exceed the limits of the era either. Since he came to this world, he wanted to live and understand things clearly. Cheng Dalei questioned the system whether she was a ghost, god, or demon if she chosen him, but what she wanted him to do. The system responded that her real name was Heart, and her birth seemed to be related to his soul. She explained that when she first woken up as a system elf, she was just stupid and ignorant. She only known that as soon as she was born, she was given the permission to manage the system. With that, she could give a mission, operate a raffle machine, and even improve the system's functions, offering unlimited possibilities. The system added that it was a divine thing with strange abilities, enough to change the world. Even though she hadn't actually known what it was, it left Cheng Dalei confused. The system added that Cheng Dalei carried memories of things that this world did not currently have, and she was born because of it. She guided him along the way. The system winked at Cheng Dalei and said that perhaps they wouldn't know the answer until they got to the end of the road. Cheng Dalei was disappointed that the system was acting like a riddler again and asked for more useful information. The system sighed as she replied that she could only answer a limited number of questions because she didn't know much about these things. Perhaps the raffle machine knew more than she did. Cheng Dalei said that maybe when he was transported, both of them was merged by accident. At that time, a beauty caught his sight, and he wanted to make her his own. When he seen treasure, he wanted to steal it. He continued to say that when facing 1,000 soldiers of Black Rock City, he hadn't hesitated to kill, becoming greedy and cold-blooded. Some part of his real personality was disappearing slowly, and even to the point that he needed to release Liu Heng, who slaughtered a village. When he was a guy who'd just been transported, when he gained the awareness to kill a person. Furthermore, this abnormal possessiveness. He lived a good life and questioned why he was transported and why the system shouldn't have been hers. The system sighed and placed her hand near Cheng Dalei's face. Suddenly, the system flicked her finger on his forehead and called Cheng Dalei an idiot. The system explained that he was fusing with his dumbass and that was his newbie protection period. She added that he'd just been a newbie who not experienced life and death. She only thrown him directly into the battlefield to gain experience. She was afraid that it would only take a few more days before he went mad. The system added that when Cheng Dalei just arrived in this world, the system amplified his desire so that he got the motivation to adjust in this world. She temporarily protected him from the fear of death so that he was not afraid in front of the enemy. He was able to hold his weapon steadily, and he was not soft-hearted towards the enemy until he adapted to this world. The system furiously stated that she'd given him a strong heart, yet he was not satisfied. She complained that the hosts were really getting worse and worse at serving. She told him that he was transported because he stayed up late and died due to lack of sleep. Do not become a victim of delusional disorder every day. Cheng Dalei was stunned and unable to speak. He realized that he stayed up late and died suddenly, while the system called him stupid and asked if he had any other questions. Cheng Dalei sighed as he replied that he had one more question. He asked how long the newbie protection lasted, to which the system responded that it didn't last long. After 1,000 Black Rock City soldiers began to disappear, the system questioned why he asked. Cheng Dalei answered both Su Ying and Liu Zheng. He knew their feelings for him, but when he came to this world, he always felt detached from it. He always thought he liked Su Ying because of the system's influence on him, and he did not know whether that feeling in his heart was real or not. He always felt that just because he wanted to complete the task, the system sent him to pursue Su Ying, and he felt like he lost some value. The system replied that the newbie protection was long gone and asked himself whether it was true that he feelings for her, while Cheng Dalei said that he should take into consideration that they were both sociable. The system suggested he go chase her. This time there was no pressure from the mistress of the fort mission. He should go and propose to her. However, Cheng Dalei hesitated because the Ring tribe could invade anytime. The system replied to hurry up. If he was late, he wouldn't have a chance, while Cheng Dale could only agree. Meanwhile, the system labeled him as a retarded guy. Later that night at the Toad Village, someone knocked on a door. It was Cheng Dale, and Xiao Yi opened the door when he asked if Miss Ying was asleep. Xiao Yi replied that she was about to rest. Xiao Yi invited him to come in. Su Ying was sitting on her bed and asked Cheng Dale why he was still there at such a late hour, worried that something happened. Cheng Dale was biting his lip and responded that he would like to talk to her about something. He told Xiao Yi to go out for a moment and referred to her as a little butterfly. However, Xiao Yi questioned his village master and asked what he wanted to do. Suddenly, little Xiao Yi was carefully thrown out by Cheng Dale. She looked back and was annoyed. She peered near the closed window in hopes of listening to what he to say. The candle was lit in the room, where Su Ying asked how long it would be before the ring would attack them. Cheng Dale replied in about 2 or 3 days because the marching speed of the rings was fast. Su Ying asked what he wanted to talk about. Cheng Dale blushed when he slowly asked if she wanted to marry him now. Su Ying's face turned red and she questioned the timing. Cheng Dale replied that he knew this was very abrupt, and he didn't have a gift or a ceremony or anything. But if she waited until after the war and he proposed to her, it would feel strange, like he was planting a flag. So, Cheng Dale asked her again if it was better to be early rather than later, and if she would marry him. Su Ying was silent, and Cheng Dale kept saying that if she did not want to, he suggested they could slowly develop feelings for each other. She replied for him to relax a little and asked him if he was too nervous for his own good. Cheng Dale was speechless as he looked away. He replied not to take his words seriously, slowly turned around, and said that she should rest early. He was near the door and added that after this battle, they did not even know whether they would live or die. Su Ying called Cheng Dale, which stopped him from leaving the room. She stood up, responding that she thought she was already his while her face was blushing. They kissed in the candlelit room. When she lost her virginity, he fell in love with her. She sensed that the gentleman was not blushing and turned to him with a hug. Suddenly, the light went out. This made Xiao Yi wonder as she continued to peek into the room. Their act of love burst out little red hearts in the air. When Xiao Yi heard what was happening, Cheng Dale and Su Ying continued making love, which resulted in more little red hearts bursting in the room. Xiao Yi was startled when she suddenly realized they were making love. She walked away. It was too sudden and she was worried about Su Ying because she was an absolute blockhead when it came to this. She should have asked his mother to show her those position pictures first. And Xiao Yi was not sure if there were any herbs in the village that strengthened the body. The system was sitting on the roof, gazing at the stars and moon, and uttered that it was hard for her to say anything while she was enjoying a few moments of wind and rain. She was surprised and smiled when she received a notification ding that they were rewarded with half a day of rain and wind. Meanwhile, at the Black Rock City, someone was announcing that anyone who did not arrive within 10 drum beats would be executed. They were in formation while their division was being called group by group, signifying their presence. Someone called the attention of all northern ringers. It was Kai Mei leading them and commanding them to go as he led the way. They started their journey in the Kin Nu Mountain. While they marched on the roads of the mountain, Lin Sheiyu, covered in a makeshift grass suit, was observing them from the top of a mountain edge. He continued to observe them and estimated about 10,000 men, heavy cavalry, light cavalry, foot soldiers, prisoners, provisions, and their path. Shortly after that, he hurriedly headed out because he needed to notify his village master. Lin Sheiyu stood alongside a tree on Bullhorn Mountain, still wearing his grass suit. The tree began to make a harsh rasping sound. Lin Sheiyu was shaking the tree, sending a signal to the Toad Village. The second master noticed that the tree on top of Bullhorn Peak was moving, which meant Lin Sheiyu was giving the signal. The second master, reading the signals, told his fellow bandits to notify the village master because the rings were coming from the north. The morning came at Kin Nu Mountain. A few thousand northern rings marched. Meanwhile, Cheng Dale and his troops lurked in the distant bushes. He said that their speed slowed down a lot. However, Gao Fei Hu added that those ravines and wooden barriers wouldn't hold them for long. Cheng Dale responded that they would escape once they shot some arrows. They wouldn't be able to chase them once they got deep into the mountains. He raised his hand and called his troops' attention to ready their bows and arrows. Cheng Dale fiercely screamed for a release. Some of the members of the Ring tribe and horses were hit and lost their balance. Kai Mei furiously alerted his people that there was an ambush and to watch out for hidden archers. He commanded the longsword group to go after and kill them. Cheng Dale, leading his troops, ran deep into the mountain and told them to keep up with him. All of his troops followed their village master into the mountains. The mountain became silent. A ring member reported to the prince that they couldn't find them after they vanished into the woods, and the forest was too dense. This shocked Kaimei that they lost them. Kaimei ordered the scout to explore the road ahead and reminded them to pay attention to the surroundings. With the geographical advantage, Cheng Dale kept setting traps on the road, and the enemy was greatly slowed down. Finally, at dusk 3 days later, the Ring army arrived outside the Toad village. Kaimei was holding a map and thought in his mind that he finally found it. The river crossed between both Bullhorn peaks, and behind the peaks lay what he was looking for. Kaimei wondered how it could become a city when it was a densely wooded valley. He kept wondering whose army was stationed here, and if it was possible that they were the ones who attacked them a few days ago. He brushed it off, just broke down the gate, slaughtered the whole city, and they would have what was buried there. Kaimei called for all his troops and they obeyed his order. He shouted to kill and attack the city. The rings ran towards the city with their weapons, barriers, and ladders. Cheng Dale was informed that they were coming so fast, they did not even have to rest and set up a camp. He commanded his people to get ready because it was an all-out war. The Ring's troops were organized and prepared to go up in one go. The battle began, and the Rings were climbing on their ladders while arrows and stones flew everywhere. The bandits were steadfast in holding their positions and getting them down. However, they were shocked when the Rings tribe began throwing large stones. The bandits were alerted to watch out. However, a flaming blast struck once along with the rocks, and as a result, some of them flew back. Qin Man called Zhang Fei to come with him to block the defense line that was broken. The Ring managed to climb up and kill while the frontline bandits were struggling and calling for support. Xilong was called out to stop them. Xilong responded that he understood while his brother laughed. The Ring members who managed to climb realized that it was a dead end but got slain on the spot. They successfully blocked the Rings and confidently told them to not even think about coming up. Little Wolf was slaying and slashing Rings with his sword. A massive wooden pointy log was seen with the Rings as they continued to charge. The attack came like an ocean wave as the Rings tried to break the city gate. One wave went down with a loud bang. The bandits poured oil when the one came up again. They ignited with fire. As a result, the Ring members on the ladder were burning alive. They continued banging the city wall like waves splashed, while some Ring members complained it was so hot. The first attack made by the Ring tribe began at dusk. At 3 o'clock, the Ring troops retreated. When the attack failed, Kaimei took advantage of the night to set up camp 3 miles away from the Toad village.